We are live. All right, you guys, welcome to live class. Let me put my banner up there. Nobody know who we are. This is Pastor Norman, who's in Moncks Corner, South Carolina.
Well, good evening to everyone.
And
good afternoon, good evening. If we don't see you anymore, good night.
I was about to say my husband sitting next to me. This is him.
Him.
This
is her. Him and her.
Hope you guys have had a good day so far. And let's see who's here today. There's my sissy and brother-in-law. I hope Willie Carr is feeling better.
He didn't have the pandemic.
He's got the Cobra. Hey, Bird.
You
ought not be so mean.
And then there's Kathy. Hey, Kathy.
Hey,
Dee Dee and George.
George.
Linda Langdon's here. Hey, Langdon.
Hello, Langdon.
Yeah, so COVID, I think COVID's gone, but she left something with me, and that is a sinus infection that I'm getting over. Yeah. Yeah. So, wow. And John Greason's in the house.
Greason J, motorcycle Greason.
So if you guys see me blowing or anything like that, that's why. Okay, just to let you know.
All of that.
And
the above. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. So, welcome. Pastor Norma, what did you preach on Sunday?
Basically, I've been still on the topic of prayer, the different dimensions of prayer, the different factors and elements of prayer, pretty much. I've been doing a series dealing with intercession. And so for more of a point of not from a religious concept, but one of our functions of purpose in the earth, be between heaven and earth, or bridging the gap between the natural and the supernatural and earth and heaven. So I've been sharing from that aspect. Yep.
Wow. Sounds good. Yeah, we've been kind of laying low, hadn't done a whole lot. I haven't read much or anything, but I do want to say this. I heard just today, young man was in a session with a spiritual teacher, one of the non-dual teachers. Some of you may have heard of him, Francis Lucille. He's a Frenchman. And the young man was asking him something about divinity. And he asked the young man how would you describe divinity? I thought that was a good question, because most of us dealing with concepts, we have some concept of what that means. Somebody might say, well, that's spirit. And see, when we say the words, we don't necessarily know what we're saying. We're just giving it labels. But he couldn't explain what divinity was to define it. But then the teacher asked him, can you tell me how do you experience divinity? Because he was asking about his own divinity and discovering his own divinity. He said, how do you experience divinity? And of course, he started talking about beyond time, that which is eternal, infinite. And then the teacher asked him, can you, being finite, know infinity? Can you, being born in time, know eternity? What is eternal? And he kept asking him questions like that. Of course, the young man couldn't answer them, because there are questions that cause us to look deeper than what we normally look. And so he said, at the end, conclusion, the teacher said to him, you have an intuitive knowing of divinity. It isn't a mental thing, but you have an intuitive knowing. He said you also have an intuitive understanding of what God is. But he said that has that intuition is not is not from the human part of you. He said it totally different than that, but I'm just giving it my words. He said, only God can know God. Only so that we that intuition that we have when we feel we know God, that is God knowing itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's God knowing itself, because we're finite, we cannot know infinity. And the other question that the teacher asked the young man was, can anything that is separate from another, can it be one with it and still separate? Can it know it and still be separate?
This is funny to me because probably about 20 minutes ago, I was reading out of it was actually an app that I have on my phone, that was systematic theology, and that's actually the theory that I was actually reading, what you're talking about now, dealing with the finite and the infinite, trying to comprehend not so much about God, but about the true essence of man. It was talking about dualism, separatism, and a thought came to me concerning in it. It was talked about when Paul makes the statement concerning when we physically die, the body goes back to the earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And then the spirit itself, using the terminology, goes back to where it came from, which is God. And so it was sharing just what you just said, that we man is the full essence of God as well. We may not be aware of it because we're trying to comprehend something with our finite mind, something that is infinite, and we really cannot. Even like you said, we mentioned the word spirit, but in all actuality, we do not know what spirit is. And so it talked about us intuitively and instinctively knowing there is a God without even really having any proof.
Exactly.
Just know he is. Yep.
Yeah. So it is coming. And he said that's the difference in religion and wisdom. Religion is this little the concept of a little me here that really is messed up and needs help, and trying to reach God, trying to touch the infinite, trying to touch that is eternal so that it can become that. But wisdom is knowing and seeing that you are that there is nothing else but that, and that everything that looks otherwise is what is the illusion, is what is false.
Mm-hmm. And I'm in doing that and contemplating or whatever, I'm realizing that a lot of things that is being revealed to us goes beyond and exceeds our belief or
Yeah,
believing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
my concept of
yeah.
Christianity does not fall in the category of traditional Christianity. Like I was explaining to the church, I'm not a Christian based off of what I believe. My religious belief does not make me a Christian. So I'm going beyond religion, going
Yeah.
according to when the word first showed up in the scripture or in the Bible. It was not making reference to a religion, it was making a reference to a being. And so it's an adjective more than so it's a description. And so like Jesus said in Matthew 7, you know the tree by the fruits it bear. So I was sharing with them to be considered a Christ being, playing with the words, there should be some evidence of your identity or your essence.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You mighty quiet, Dad. You thinking?
Yeah, I see it in his eyes. I see it in his
Linda
eyes.
says the infinite cannot know the finite, and the finite cannot know the infinite, and that is so true. And but then and a lot of times when I go outside, just going to be transparent with you. A lot of times at night when I take baby girl out for her final potty, I'll stand out there in our yard and I'll look up at the sky and I'll look at the stars, and all of a sudden I have this sensing, just this sensing of being surrounded by God. Of course, we know that's just a concept, but that's what I sense. And so when I do that, oftentimes I'll say, how does anybody know what you are? How does anybody know what you prefer, what you like or dislike? I said, if we had no Bible, no spiritual text, I said, how would I know you? How would I know you? But at the same time, I'm standing here sensing and being aware of you, not apart from me, but in, through, and by me, all around me. And so it's a whole different kind. It's not a relationship so much as it is a spiritual phenomena of being in God. That scripture that says, in him we live, move, and have our being, of actually having the experience of that without feeling that God is an other. And it's different. It's different. So now I realize when people are talking or teaching or whatever, that most of the time what we're doing is we'll take a higher concept to dismiss the lower concepts. So we teach in concepts because the mind needs a picture in order to have an image of whatever it is that we're talking about. And so when you start talking about the infinite and the absolute, the unmanifest, there's no image that you can conjure. There's no image that the mind can conjure. And so God is not known through the mind. We can gain knowledge, we can get information, but God cannot be known through knowledge in that sense. It can point you to the point, it'll point you in a direction where you can have that knowing, but the knowledge itself will not give you that.
God is the only part of us that can be in hell and not be touched by it. God is the part of us that can be in hell and never be touched by it.
Yeah.
It cannot die, be born again, or be born as though it never existed. This is the musical side of God as man. And man is God's breath in its relaxed state.
In its natural state.
In its relaxed state. That kind of touches you a little bit. It's God is the relaxation of himself as us.
That's good.
That's why it seems difficult to describe the indescribably delicious. Yeah, that's what that'll make your head shine.
Taste and see.
Oh,
delicious.
And I love the mystical talk, and more than loving the mystical talk, I love the language that takes us out of the earth plane and out of this earth existence, because we get so bogged down with the heaviness of this earth existence. There's so many things that take place that trouble us, but at the same time, what did you say, that first thing you said? God can be in hell.
Yeah, God can he's the only part of us that can be in hell and never be touched by it.
Never be touched by it. Yes.
In essence, forever in peace, undisturbed.
Yes.
Jesus gave us those examples, especially when in Mark 5, when he was crossing over and the storm came and he was literally undisturbed. It didn't bother him. It didn't frighten him. It didn't wake him up. He would have still been sleeping if they didn't wake him up.
I know that's so funny. That's
out,
so
of, out
funny.
of their own fear now. That's funny. Now I didn't never thought about that. They woke him up out of their own fear while he was relaxing.
Yeah, yeah.
We are the spine.
Hold on a minute. John Greason said his head is shining. He said you can't get this in a traditional church.
No, no,
You
no.
won't, John. That's the truth, huh? That's true. And then Virginia said the heavens declare the glory of the Lord. Yes, yes,
Mhm.
The
yes.
essence of God is the posture of God, and it is God's spine inside of us with a kiss of God. The food and the breath of God is revealed in the heart.
Yes,
The heart of
yes,
God is the
yes.
only part of us that can make the changes.
Well, that's the connector. Is the heart.
Mhm.
It's the changes.
That's the connector. We often try to connect with our minds,
You
but
can't.
you can only connect with
You
the heart.
can't. The mind.
Now that's what we
The
just shared
mind.
in what I just read. And it's funny that you said it because that's actually what it said in the book I was reading, that the heart connects us to everything, not the mind. The mind is forever exploring, but the heart
Mm-hmm.
is the one that connects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you
But I,
just said it.
but and but I do believe that the value of critical thinking. There is such a value in critical thinking because, and I heard one preacher say he calls it church brain, where some people get born again and get saved and get into church. They get what he called church brain. They just don't think for
Mhm.
themselves anymore. But critical thinking is what causes one to come to this understanding. And
Mhm.
I heard Dr. David Hawkins, who's no longer in this earth plane with us physically. He said this. He said the first step to awakening is courage to think out of the box. And
Exactly.
it starts with reasoning. And that's why that scripture says, God says, come, let us reason together. God has no problem with your critical thinking. He has no problem with you asking questions that are loaded questions, because those loaded questions really are planted and downloaded inside of you in order for you to wake up.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing, and I call it critical and creative thinking.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
that's what people don't understand when it comes to when we use the terminology of being enlightened, being awakened, mysticism. Is and I find myself challenging and questioning everything that I have been taught, everything that I have been exposed to. How I started to getting there. What happens to me most of the time when everything's around me still, when I'm in a still place, and then I begin to question and challenge everything, especially coming to the place of realizing that a lot of what I will experience or what I am has nothing, like I said earlier, has nothing to do with my belief. God,
Right,
God
right,
is God, whether we
right.
believe or not. You know,
Yes,
it has
yes,
nothing to do with
yes,
believing. So that's why I'm seeing what's happening with me now on my journey. I'm realizing that there's a lot that is that's being revealed to me that has nothing to do with my belief system.
yes, yes. My understanding, or I should say, my awareness of what God is has evolved over the years. What I believed, you talk about belief, what I believed when I first started trying to, what I call, go into this spiritual journey, entering into church and getting born again and all of that stuff, reading my Bible, trying to learn of those things. All of my understanding and my picture concept of God then was totally different from what it is now. So I
Hmm.
now no longer live in the land of belief, because what I believed about God that I was told and I learned in the past, I've come to understand are not true. Most of it was not true and totally different from what I thought. So I'm more I've come to a point of being more open to whatever truth is, and not so much trying to find, and I want to see how I can say this. We try to find truth that is absolute so we can know for sure this is the way it is and this is the only way it is. But when you do that, what you do is you block yourself from getting truth from any, you block yourself from having any other truth come to you, any more truth come to you, any more awareness, more expansion cannot come to you if you confine yourself to something and say this is the only thing that's true. That's why I don't encourage people to. I encourage them to read their Bibles, but don't put your allegiance to in the Bible, because the Bible itself is finite. Even though it was given and downloaded for us, it is finite. No other spiritual text. We should have no allegiance to any spiritual text, because when we do, we have just confined ourselves to that only, and then we don't have any option to have find a greater awareness.
And so you just gave a great description and definition of religion. And I'm discovering that our religious beliefs, or being religious, actually reinforces and strengthens our humanity and carnality. I think it keeps us more human than the word divine, or walking in our true identity, or in our I amness. So I'm seeing that even religion not only reinforce our humanity, but it reinforced fear, because look at how people are now open to other creative thoughts. It caused them to be closed-minded. And when individuals are closed-minded towards one another, ideologies or experiences of what they've been exposed to, it creates fear, it creates war, it creates conflict, and all that. And that's what we experience in the world today. It is fear is the thing that's behind it, that's generating all of this. And so it caused division. So that's why to be awakened, religion has no place when you're in an awakened state.
And I want to address something that Linda's saying, which is absolutely true. I want to say this, that in what she's, let me read it first, and then I'll say what I'm going to say. She says, I've always been amazed people could believe God, who created all of life, when he needed to save his people, the only plan he could come up with was to have his son murdered. And I understand exactly what she's saying. So what we've been told and what we have read has painted a picture of a God that isn't necessarily a true portrait. And so we've read it in the scriptures. We don't. So that's why I always say, if the narrative is true, because we don't know if the narrative is true. The scriptures tell us that he gave his life. He laid down his life. So I can see it from that standpoint. It's kind of like what I was saying before. If a person is, and I use this as an example, a little kid who's in the bed, he's sleeping, he's having a nightmare, and all of a sudden he wakes up and he looks at the closet and he thinks he sees a monster. He'll scream out. His parents run in the room. It isn't going to be good enough for you to say to that child, the monster does not exist. You're just dreaming. It is not going to make the child come out of that illusion of being afraid of a monster. In order to have that child come out of that fear, that parent has to literally go to that door where that child believes a monster is, open the door, and then cast that monster out. That's the only way. So while we understand that the way things were done in the scriptures, we're only got to remove the illusion. So there are things that Jesus had to go through to remove the illusion. Not necessarily because it's not reality, but to remove the illusion from our seeing. That had to be done for a lot of us.
The cleaning agent in Mr. Clean Cleanser is the substance inside of the bottle. The cleaning agent of Mr. Clean is the product in the bottle that automatically cleanses itself. So the cleansing agent of the essence of every one of us is inside of each of us, cleansing and purifying that no longer has to do anything to make that happen. because presence automatically cleanses Mr. Clean outside the bottle. Okay. Now, once the stinger is broke off, when the stone is rolled from the entrance of the tomb, it broke the stinger of death and the dark night of the soul. Here it comes. Here's the dark night of the soul. Everything that you're going through, or that God is going through in your finite form, is under this guise of an intercessor. Mm-hmm. Everything that you are doing today was for somebody else, because there's no you that live, but Christ that lives. Mm-hmm. So now we understand the mystical side that seems to be unveiled to us, gradually, pieces by pieces, based on the contract that we agreed to come here and not wake up completely until it is seen fit for that word to manifest.
So we're being freed from illusions, and not all at once. Some of us all at once. That's rare. Most of us are being freed from illusions a little bit at a time. And we believe the monster's in the closet. And so there are many ways that our God, as we've known in the past, would free us from that monster, knowing that the monster doesn't really exist. And so we're being freed from illusions.
It's called the day the earth stood still. The day the earth stood still.
Eulogize ourselves.
We say
eulogize ourselves.
Okay, eulogy.
Yeah. But you made me think about something, Dad, and I even got a greater insight of it. Years ago, when we were sitting there at the Japanese restaurant, and you shared with me, in order for me to be successful at bowl, I would have to go back to sleep. I remember you saying that, and when you said what you just said, made me think about that. And I want everyone to hear what the word said. You said, in order for me to be successful at bowl, I would have to go back to sleep, which means I would have to go back into that illusion. So now I realize, because I remember making a statement, I do not want to go back to sleep.
Yeah,
I want to stay awake. And it hit me kind of hard. So now I'm realizing, in all honesty, we're seeking to be for success that is not real. It's really an illusion. And Solomon came to that point, especially with him being considered the not only the most wisest, but the most wealthiest man. He came up to the conclusion that all is vanity. All is vanity. Everything is vain. And so we spend a lot of this time trying to be successful and to accumulate, when even Paul said, don't search for those things which are seen, because they are temporal. We are to search for the unseen. And those are eternal or everlasting. And so, in all honesty, when we come to the place of enlightenment and in that awakened state, there is no such thing as success. And y'all say that a lot when y'all use the word isness. Dad said all that isness. There is no success. There is no prosperity. There is no we just are, or it is, however you want to say it. But we are chasing something, and what is the oddest thing, it never satisfies us.
Yeah, that's about to say.
We achieve one thing, and then we get bored with that. And then we'll go after something else. It's almost like when we buy that new outfit. Oh man, I got to get this outfit. Oh, look at this outfit. You wear it one time, and then the emotional attachment you had with it in the beginning, you don't have it no more, because now you're looking for the next thing that's supposed to make you look all of that in the bag of chips.
And it comes from, that's a great example. It comes from the belief that that something outside of yourself will make you happy. So it does cause us to drive ourselves in certain directions, because we think, if I can get that job, I'll be happy. If my mate would get saved and get or wake up, and we can be on the same level and same page, I'll be happy. And or if I can get enough money in my bank account, I'll be happy. I'll be happy because I won't have to worry about bills and all this. So if I could have a body that doesn't get sick, I'll be happy. So we have all these beliefs of what will make us happy, and not realizing that none of it will. That the happiness that we're seeking, that we want, is what we are. And it doesn't come with a great emotional surge. It comes with an actual realization that there's nothing outside of you that's going to bring fulfillment. Nothing.
Exactly.
When we get to the place where the full awareness is implemented, we will begin to think that the divine self for the dark night of the soul.
Yes, yes, yes.
And that's not something to be done because we discover it. It is something that is being done in the process of Moses moving with God on the backside of the mountain. No one will be able to see the end of us because it is a hairline fracture in the hull of the ship that can only be found through a supernatural X-ray system that's built into us that purges, heals, wipe out, kill everything that's dead, raise it up, and kill it again.
You know, you taught us this years ago about how they check the hull of an airplane.
Yeah, the hull.
And you may have mentioned it. Mm-hmm. And how they look for those little
special machine to find
cracks.
Hairline fractures.
They call it finding out if the plane is integrous.
If it has
integrity.
And the integrity of the ship.
Yes, the integrity of it means there are no hairline fractures.
And the only part of us that can see that hairline fracture is the X-ray machine.
Yes.
And it's not an introverted machine. It is built into the fabric of the robe of Christ that we wear in an unconscious state of the heart, revealing day by day the walk of God, step by step, without making a step. Mm-hmm. The last step that is taken, like I heard somebody say online, I don't have anything else to surrender. I said, I beg your pardon.
They don't know that they just said had to be surrendered.
That was said that we heard was a overstatement. Keep your mouth shut, close up every door, and seal it. That's like I told somebody. I said, if you was in a brick building and all the walls and the ceiling was 50 feet thick, and you didn't have any way to get in or out of it, being inside of it, and the only thing in there was a hammer, a saw, and a table. How would you get out? Ain't no windows, no doors. Everything is 50 feet cement, top, bottom, and around. Somebody said, well, I'll take the hammer and choose my way out, but you can't do through a 50-foot brick wall and ceiling. Well, let's see now. I can take the saw and somewhere. Well, you can't find a saw that'll cut through concrete that thick because you got to have a place to start. Well, I say, well, they say, well, how do you get out? I say, well, you got a saw and you got a hammer. Take the saw and that table, saw the table in half, and two halves make a what? A hole. Go out through the hole. Yeah. Oh my God. Be thou made whole. I mean, you gonna find a way. Yeah.
but I want to revisit you making a statement about a fracture, a hairline fracture, which is it takes an X-ray to discover, because you could be experiencing the pain, and with the natural eye you will not be able to see. So it has to be something that will magnify in order for you to see it. Well, that also points out concerning many of us being fractured within our soul or in our minds. There is something that is happening that we are experiencing, but it's undetected unless something magnifies it. So this is where oftentimes we see the love of God. I remember you teaching many years ago that there's some things that surface out of us, and we wanted to demonize what was coming to the surface, not realizing that it was the Spirit of God itself bringing it to the surface so that you could be delivered or healed and made whole from it.
Yeah. There's, and when Dad was talking about that laser beam, I'll call it that, and then it talks about it in Hebrews 4. And those of us who are Bible students, you read this before. It said in the 11th verse of the 4th chapter, it said, "Let us labor therefore to enter into that rest, lest any man fall after the same example of unbelief. For the word of God is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword." It's like a laser, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. That's where the hairline fractures are, in the thoughts and the intents of the heart. And then I remember this scripture over in Colossians, and see, we fail to understand it. And I said it so many times before, that there is a constitutional work that's being done. God is actually performing surgery, and we don't realize he's doing it. So here in Colossians 2, it says in the 10th verse, he says, "And you are complete in him, which is the head of all principality and power, in whom also you are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, in putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ." And then it says, "Buried with him in baptism, wherein also you are risen with him through the faith of the operation of God, who hath raised him from the dead." The operation in this sense is surgery. God actually has done surgery on us that we didn't have to give consent for.
So now, I like that. So now, let's think about physical surgery. Now, most operations or surgeries are done when we are what?
Asleep.
So now we've been talking about being asleep and being awakened. So could it be possible there is a purpose behind us being in a state of sleep, even consciously, for God to do a work or to operate on us, to bring us to the point where we, because it's during the time when we are awakened that we actually recover.
That's what he did with Adam. He put Adam into a
deep sleep,
a deep state of unconscious sleep, and he woke up. And when he woke up, he saw Eve. He didn't know what to call her, so he just said, "Whoa!"
Well, and that goes back to what you said earlier about the dark night of the soul. So when we're in that dark night of the soul, that is the surgery being done.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the surgery being done.
It's called cutting the hell out of you.
Cutting the hell out of you.
Yeah, when I said, Pastor, it's called cutting the hell out of you.
But we resist it. It's not a pleasant thing for us. It's not a pleasant thing for us, but it's purposeful. We need that time so that we can discover those thoughts and intents of the heart.
Watchman Nee, as a bookie out, a book that he had out years ago. We had it. It has something to do with the breaking of the soul
and the releasing of
the spirit. That was the tomb. Encased in this vessel is the treasure of gold that has to break through the openings of the cracks of the hairline fractures. Nobody will be able to tell where God came from, but he was there all the time. He was there all the time. He was there all the time. Okay.
He getting wind up. He getting wind up.
There's some more words here. What's the words?
You were singing, and it's funny. You were singing, and all I could see, I had a vision of you with your guitar.
Love lifted me. Love lifted me.
So now, in and I just want to present this because again, just like I was sharing with someone on yesterday, why it's not good for us to be so judgmental, because we don't understand everybody's purpose, their intent for their existence. But again, all of us is on a journey. The awesome thing is at the end of the journey, we all will end up in the same place when it comes to awakening. So there are certain things in life. Do y'all believe that are certain triggers that occurs with us to be used as a tool to bring us to that place of awakening?
I would say yes, that there are triggers, but at the same time, life isn't so pre-planned. It's like it's more of a spontaneity of at the moment, whatever is needed, that is what is presented. And so a lot of times we try to know ahead of time so we can avoid certain things. But if life is a spontaneity, then there's going to be times when we won't know what's coming. But in order to accept what's coming, to see through it, not just look at it. And I remember you gave a sermon on that years ago. You have to learn to see through it, not look at it. And
see through us.
To become see-throughers. Why that event took place happened in the first place.
God falls asleep back into himself.
Mm.
God falls asleep back into himself.
So that's the key there, is for us to continue to know that it isn't just me as a separate entity waking up. It is that is God waking up to itself.
It is an excellent upset of the disruptions that God only create as waves of glory that come over himself and causes himself to play the God game as being human and divine, as the sky is not threatened by the cloud, and yet the cloud and the sky are one.
Yes.
Separated, individual, but one.
Yes. Yeah.
You need to write a book entitled that.
Uh-oh. I don't know about that.
The God game. The God game.
The God game.
Okay.
Like we say in the church, that'll preach. That'll preach.
Hey, that's the Sonic Hedgehog.
God game.
He don't want that can play the whole baseball game and hit the ball, run and catch it, and then run all the bases at the same time.
That's the God game.
Yeah, that's where I was
the only two other persons I see do that, which they animated. That's the Hedgehog. The Hedgehog. And before him, it was Bugs Bunny.
Oh, no, don't say nothing.
Yeah, before him, it was Bugs Bunny.
Yes. Our cartoons were so entertaining. They were not educational at all.
Hey, Bugs Bunny was the only one that could be running so fast he'd blow a paw, and his paw go to flapping like he got a flat tire. Then he'd go back into the trunk in the back and pull out a new paw and put it on and take off again.
Yeah, our cartoons were not educational at all. They were just for entertainment only.
Literally just to laugh.
So much fun just to look at it.
But you know, the original Bugs Bunny was mean.
He was a mean character.
Ooh,
yeah.
He was
now,
mean.
Linda said this. She says, we don't really know for sure if the Bible is historical or an allegory. And that's right. We don't know for sure about any sacred text. And that's my point exactly. We cannot build our spirituality on a sacred text, because if we do that, then we have already confined ourselves to that limited truth that's only in that text.
Because see, based off, and I like that she put that up there, because you had made a reference to it earlier, that those that wrote these sacred texts and stuff like that. Well, what sacred texts did they have? Before they wrote that, what did they have to reference? The only thing that they had to reference was whatever was happening to them intuitively or experiences that they've been, but they had no sacred text to reference at
That's
all.
right. So what we have in every sacred text is what God was to them.
Exactly.
They wrote what God was to them. And so the question is, what is God to you? What is God to you?
Yeah,
Linda said Bugs Bunny has always been her hero. Bugs Bunny, like you said, the original Bugs Bunny was mean.
Elmer Fudd
Yeah, he
never could.
was. He was.
Elmer Fudd never could catch him.
You know who else I
silly
like?
wabbit.
You know who else I like was Roadrunner.
Roadrunner. Yeah.
Roadrunner. Yeah.
You ever watch old Snidely Whiplash?
Oh yeah. Well, you gotta
Yeah,
forget.
Snidely was
I grew
something,
up on
wasn't
those cartoons.
it? Old Snidely Whiplash
Deputy
on
Dog.
Yeah.
Deputy Dog, Ricochet Rabbit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you remember
all of
Goofy?
that.
Goofy, yeah.
Goofy. So our cartoons were so much fun. So much fun.
Realistic.
No, anything but realistic. Annie Harrison, good evening to you. You just popped in and we're getting ready to pop out in a minute.
Annie Harrison.
I'm glad you're here, though. I'm glad you're here. So, what is God to you? And really, it comes down to that question for all of us. What God is to me cannot satisfy. It won't satisfy. You must find that for yourself. What is God to you?
The question is,
because the thing is, like for example, the perception that you and Dad may have of me may not be the perception that someone else has. And what you guys, whatever information that y'all have gathered came from an experience, an interaction, and so forth. Y'all got to know me for yourself. And even others that know me may still yet have a different perception of who I am. Well, that's the same thing with God. Each one of us have to have our own experience that determines how we see him. And how I see him, you should not judge or criticize how I see him.
That's right. Well, and that's why I said, like my sister and I often talk about this, how that, yes, churches can be very, very judgmental, legalistic, and they can bind people and they can get lost in religion. But I also see the value of it because at least they're preaching and trying to connect people to God. And I realized it, and we talk about it often, my sister and I, if my brother had been in a church that was legalistic, he would probably be alive today because it would have kept him from going out and doing things that he felt he could do. They would have made him feel as if he was sinning. They would have made him feel as if God was against him, and it would have scared the hell out of him. And I remember there's a scripture that talks about some are saved by snatching them out of hell, and some are saved by love. Now, all of us aren't going to be saved by love. That's just the bottom line. Some of us have to have the hell scared out of us.
Remember that's what back during the time in what I would say the late 80s. That was the tool that they used to really get people saved, especially the young people. They would show that movie, The Burning Hell. And after they would show that movie right there in the sanctuary, all of young people came to the altar. But now show that same movie today. If you show that same movie today, it would have no effect on this.
No impact. Exactly.
It would be a comedy to them.
Yeah. So it is there's a value in every aspect of it, even though it's not something that I could live in personally. And I wouldn't want anybody else to have to live in it. But if that would save their life, then it would be good for them. And it would have been for my brother had he been in a situation like that, because he came to be with us in our settings, and we showed him the love of God. He loved it, he enjoyed it, and he was embracing it. But when he got back in his environment, he needed more structure. He needed structure. And that was not what we did. Freedom does not necessarily give you structure. And so I've seen a lot of people who awaken, and they awaken And instead of being free from their ego, they have an ego that's been freed. And so now they do whatever they want to do and feel like they can do whatever they want to do without any consequences. And that's not freedom. That's not true freedom. That's an ego that's free and running amok.
Exactly.
It's a whole lot. It's a whole different thing. That's a whole different thing. A lot of people come into this freedom message and they feel like, oh, now I can do what I used to say I couldn't do. I can go back to doing this and I can do that. But that's just an ego that's now free. And that is not true freedom. That is not true freedom. So anyway, that's my soapbox. That's my soapbox. John said they wrote on what they saw. That's right. The sun coming up and the stars in the sky. Exactly. Even when Joshua was fighting, he said he prayed and asked the Lord to let the sun stand still. We know nowadays the sun don't stand still. We're revolving around the sun. The sun isn't moving.
So what actually stood still?
Yes, that's the thing.
You see what I'm saying? What actually stands still? I mean, even the concept.
Was he just given the illusion of it standing still? See, that's it.
And see, think about the concept again. We learned this in history class that at one time man thought the world was what? Flat.
Flat.
You know what I'm saying?
That eggheads that now still think that.
Yeah.
You know, there's some eggheads that still think that. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's not nice.
What?
Calling somebody egghead. Don't be missing. Leave the ball alone. Don't be rubbing the ball. Leave the ball alone.
Lord have mercy. Linda says there are no sinners to save. And that's true. In our land, and where we live, there are no sinners. Exactly. A son or a son. Yes, Linda, thank you so much for your comments. And thank you guys for your comments. We've been on here not quite an hour, but it seems like it's been on a long time, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It does, doesn't it? For some reason.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does.
We've been working it today. We've been working it this evening.
Like that old guy say, does the stuff nowadays, doesn't it?
Oh, I never heard that.
You never heard of does?
Never heard that.
Does cleansing and washing.
I never heard that.
Does the stuff now. There ain't nothing to do but does. does the stuff
what
now.
What are you talking about?
Does it?
What you talking about?
Do it?
What?
When?
Oh my God.
That's part of that mystical language.
Huh?
That's part of that mystical language.
Yeah.
He likes to do that to me. He likes to see what my reaction is gonna be.
Yeah, she tried to be humorful, but she don't know she is.
I make you laugh. He says I don't have a sense of humor, but I make you laugh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We're silly.
Look at them laughing faces that Andy Harrison got there.
Yeah, listen, guys, we'll be back on Sunday. Thank you for taking the time to be with us this hour. And what John Greason saying? He's talking about Mr. Clean. Linda and John Greason are instigators. They're instigators. They mess with everything you say and just ride.
They know how to talk.
Yeah, they ride on it too.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll be back on Sunday. Pastor Norman, once again, thank you so much for being with us and taking the time to come in and share with us. It's been fun. It's always fun.
Pastor Norman, I got to come down and see you. I don't know how I'm going to do it.
You keep saying that. Why don't you just do it?
Yeah, but you're going to have to come on a boat.
Yeah.
Now, wait a minute.
It's flooding everywhere.
You're not related to Columbus.
It's
Columbus. You're not related. You're not
but y'all did see that our town, y'all did see our city hit national news, right?
Say what? Say that again.
Y'all didn't see that Moscone had made national news last week?
No.
Oh well, the last time we was on the broadcast, remember that Tuesday night I shared with you guys that we was hit with a tornado 3:00 that morning. and Tuesday morning.
Uh-huh.
So now, when Thursday got here, everything was quiet. Everything, we thought the storm had passed on everybody, you know. And so we're around 11 o'clock Thursday night. The sky literally fell out.
Wow.
It rained nonstop from around 11 o'clock until about 4 o'clock Friday morning. And within that time, we had 10 inches of rain till our roads were flooded, bridges was washed out, roads collapsed, literally. So we have roads that still yet you can't go in certain directions and stuff. So yeah,
that's why you said you need a boat.
Oh yeah, one of the restaurants was pretty much underwater. I mean, all that in one night, and so yeah, we made that.
Pearl said she saw that, Pastor, and she was praying for you and that city.
Yeah,
that's why I said just go. You want to go, just go.
Yeah,
you got nothing holding you, so you can go.
What are your service times?
10 o'clock.
Now the one at the church, that's at 12:30 in the afternoon, Sunday afternoon. Yeah.
Okay. I got to get a Star Trek or Star Wars and beam in and beam out.
Oh my goodness. Well, look.
You don't have a transport. You don't have a transport.
I swear you don't have a transport. I'm what's that thing you're trying to that ship that
you hit that and be transported.
Yeah.
Beam me up.
Beam me up.
Annie said build a boat. Build an ark. Go ahead.
I had to build an ark and hang my back end out the back of it and sit back across the water.
Oh my God. Oh my Lord.
Our concern here now is the storm went on, but every single day since Friday, it has been storming. And right down the street from me, there's a where they sell trailers at. That was, I think that was Saturday or Sunday. We had a storm that just came. Now it was sad. We had a storm came out of nowhere, and I heard the lightning hit. And I said it had to hit something, and sure enough, it hit one of the trailers in the trailer park down there, and literally we had to evacuate people from this area. I mean, it's been a challenge this past week.
We had a bunch of rain too, not like you guys, but we had a whole lot of rain for that one old day, and the next day, half of that day. My creek beds were working.
Oh yeah, that creek bed. You got to come and see that creek bed.
I watched that. They
were working. They were.
You saw that?
They were full of because I've got.
Yeah, Mom showed it to me last week. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they really worked. They were working. They were doing their jobs. It was good.
It's really fun to sit and watch that.
It is. Well, anyway, we'll be back, guys, on Sunday at 10. And Pastor Norma will be back. You still coming online at 9, right? At 9, yeah. Yep. So you can also catch him on Facebook. And you can catch us on Facebook or YouTube, either one. What did John say? It's not 8 o'clock. I can see the possibilities. Talking about. Yeah, he wants us to keep going. We love you guys. We're going to take off here, and I'm going to drink me some ginger tea and take it easy for the rest of the night. And we love you. We'll see you next time. Stay sweet.
All right. See you in the turnaround.